For today's event, school shelters, the new rules of the government subvention. This is one of the stages of implementation of the school offline program. I am Alena Severenchuk of the Silvet Fund, advisor to the Ministerial of Education, and our today's moderator. We have met most of you while you were implementing projects in your communities heavily impacted by the conflict, and also we have met others in other projects. And on behalf of the ministry and our foundation, let me express gratitude for the work you are doing, for the challenges you are overcoming, for the Ukrainian children to be able to get access to education. Thank you. And we actually have a number of challenges before us. According to the Ministry of Education, one of 7 schools in Ukraine is damaged or destroyed. 600,000 Ukrainian children are using school online. 200,000 are doing this from abroad. And according to the results of the most recent PISA in December 2023, the gap between cities and villages is much more considerable compared to what it has been before. 4 years in terms of mathematics, 5 years in terms of reading. It doesn't mean here that children cannot read physically. It means that they cannot analyze the text properly and discern the main contents of it. This was so far the impact of the pandemic, mostly, not of the war. And according to the recent CVET research, which we have presented in early March, 26% of Ukraine's adolescents expressed a desire to leave Ukraine once the war is over. 20% are still on the fence, but according to the sociologists, they are just opting for the socially desired answer, and they are also thinking about leaving Ukraine. So these are the numbers that are quite worrying, and we have to really fight for every Ukrainian child, including those who are studying in major cities like Kyiv or Lviv or Warsaw, but also small towns like Semenivka, Snihurivka, Izumivka, etc. And the Ministry of Education, understanding this challenge, initiated the policy for the school offline, and this is what we are going to discuss today. We are here to discuss the conceptual basis of this policy, and also I'm sure that many of you have a number of practical questions to ask, and we are going to look for the answers together. Using this opportunity, let me express gratitude to UNICEF for supporting this event today and for supporting us with the development of the My Fortress platform, which we are going to discuss today. Yes, Jenny is smiling. She is waiting forward to the full-scale presentation of this platform finally. So right now I have recalled one more important thing. We will discuss logistics right now. So you have received our agenda, and there you can see 3 important parts. The conceptual part with the remarks by the ministers. Also, at 2:20 we will have the opportunities for the press to interview the guests. And after the discussion at 3, we are going to have a short break. Not a coffee break, but just a technical break for you to exercise a little. Yeah, we can even have a video for you to guide you through the exercises. And at 10 past 3, we are going to launch our final block, the presentation of the government subvention and also the presentation of the DREAM platform that you have all heard about. Right now, let me give the floor to the Vice Prime Minister in Innovations, Development of Education, Science and Technology, Minister of Digital Transformation, Mikhailo Fedorov. Thank you. Please be more active. Hello. I'm glad to see all of you, and I'm glad to have this meeting today because the topic is important. We will be discussing the policy that has been developed and is going to be implemented together with the Ministry of Education. You will see how the subvention will work, how the policy will work, because it's a number of solutions that we are proposing. And well, first and foremost, we continue to work on the transformation of education. There is some vision that we have, and this is something that has been published by the Ministry of Education. To put it briefly, we want to transform the system in such a way that it can educate our children so that they can fully self-realize in the modern world because of the competencies they get. And this is true for every stage of education, from kindergarten to lifelong learning. And this is why we are implementing today the legislation changes, introducing individual study trajectories for the higher education institutions, relaunch of the new Ukrainian schools, the new solutions for vocational education, etc. So lots of changes are ahead of us, and we will have many such events in the future when we are going to launch the subsequent stages. I'm sure you all have your D application with you, and yeah, this is yet another sign of change. And we are going to discuss today a problem that started even before the full-scale war. During the COVID-19 pandemic, a big number of children are still learning online, over 868,000. And this entailed quite serious education gaps. We can see that over 600,000 people are the students learning online in Ukraine, and over 200,000 are learning online from abroad. Some solutions were developed to simplify the process of this learning from abroad, but today we are focusing on the children who are in Ukraine. And so what do we do to make sure that by the end of this year, as many students as possible are transitioning to offline education? Of course, more than anything else, we are taking care of safety of our children. So this is the centerpiece of all our policies. We are building shelters. We are building underground schools, and we are intending to take about 300,000 children from online to offline. And for those who are still online, we will have some more solutions to improve their experience. We will provide gadgets, we will upgrade the curricula, we will also change the approach that our teachers are going to follow. And actually, when we started working on this policy, the Ministry of Education and deputy ministers were using different technologies and algorithms to assess the required number of shelters and envision the type of network of shelters that would fit our needs. Everything was based on certain technologies, and our country was split into the different levels of security. Of course, the danger is everywhere, but the distance from the contact line is crucial, and this is something that we need to take into account to take the right decisions. This year, 2.5 billion hryvnias was provided. Last year, another 1.5 billion. This is the money for the construction or renovation of the existing shelters. The new rules for the subvention will be explained today. And most importantly, there is a conceptual shift in the use of this money. The money is going to be available at the community level other than at the oblast level. And if you consider the numbers of shelters built last year and the money available this year, it is quite obvious that this is insufficient to provide for all our goals and to ensure complete offline education. But there is a political support from our president, and we are looking into opportunities to increase this number. We are sure that the actual number is going to be bigger, but this amount you can see is the screen is the amount we will use to learn to use the money most effectively, so that you can continue using the rest of the money in your communities in the most effective way. So data is always the basis, something that informs our decision making in the Ministry of Education and in other ministries as well. Let me give you a simple example how this policy of having the maximum number of children at school is relying on technologies. So this is an imaginary example, so that we are not unveiling any real data, but we were relying on the volunteer system. That's a platform for effective decision making in different areas. In the UK, they used it to model urban traffic during COVID-19, and also for the modeling of the network of hospitals. It is also used by the armies in many countries, and basically it is used for managerial decision-making purposes in many advanced economy countries. So, to put a bit more detail into this, we were relying on a data set based on which decisions were made about the specific allocations based on the numbers of students and the numbers of classroom, the numbers of different equipment available, the damage that was inflicted upon the schools. So we considered all of this information, the impact on the critical infrastructure and the potential impact as well. So this was one of the factors we took into account. And of course, the distance from the front line, that was another important indicator. This was the kind of data we fed into the system. And based on that, we could see the exact locations where the shelters were necessary, how many buses were necessary to transport children to schools daily, etc., etc. So this is the way we use data. We are modeling the scenarios based on the data. We can fit different types of data into the system. We can set different tasks, such as modeling of shelters in the region. And we can quickly produce lists of priority schools that could be used as a foundation for the projects by donors. So, yeah, this is not only for the ministries themselves, but also for the donors, and we hope that this transparency will be the foundation for using more funds. And also, of course, the regional and local authorities will also be using this system for taking their managerial decisions. We are planning to continue developing this system and also getting additional data, feeding it to the system for the upgrade of the entire system of educational facilities, for making decisions in vocational and other types of education. Also, we are launching a project called MRIA. We start from 40 schools, but we'll scale up to 1,000 and then to all the schools next year. This will simplify the bureaucracy processes for teachers. The parents will be able to track the individual study plans of their children, etc. But this is a subject for a separate discussion. And I'm just saying this to illustrate that we are relying on data, we are relying on modeling based on some advanced technical system, and of course the data analysts and policymakers in the Ministry of Education are engaged in the communication with the local governments. As the financing will grow, our task is to ensure training and education offline, making special emphasis on safety. So there will be also other decision-making processes about the logistics, about the buses, and about the technical equipment. Hopefully everything will be more effective thanks to the use of the technologies. Thank you so much for your attention, and looking forward to the presentation of the program itself. Yeah, thank you. Of course, everyone is awaiting MRIA. And let us hear about the policies that the Ministry of Education is planning to put in place. Let's give the floor to Oksana Lysovy, the Minister of Education and Science of Ukraine. Hello, dear friends. I'm glad to welcome you. I'm grateful to all those who came to Kyiv today. I'm grateful to everyone who joined us online. Thank you very much for your work, because you are doing a lot in the communities, in the oblast military administrations. A lot is being done by departments of education. You are looking for creative solutions, and the priorities that we have been discussing for half a year are the things that you are implementing in your regions right now. About 500,000 children came back to offline study, and this is something we are going to discuss today. I'm grateful to our donors, such as UNICEF, which is making a huge contribution. I'm grateful to UNICEF's donors who are contributing to these projects. I'm grateful to civil society organizations working to meet the needs of some specific communities, and this is a great solution in the times where the central government is not able to do this everywhere all at once. So we're going to speak of offline school today. We will have a number of presentations unveiling this topic in as much detail as possible. Since day one of our work in the ministry, we have set ourselves a goal together with the partners and the members of parliament who are contributing to these policies at the parliament level. We have the Parliament Caucus. We also have the previous Minister of Education who is working with us and supporting us with ideas how to bring back children to offline education. And also for the recent months, we were supported by the Vice Prime Minister and also informing the President and the Prime Minister about these changes. Also in communication with the Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Recovery, Vice Prime Minister Kubrakov, who is also going to present the solutions proposed by his ministry. Because of the pandemic, as we are all aware, the quality of education dropped, not only here in Ukraine. You all know the outcomes of PISA 2022. You can see that there are some negative trends in other countries as well, but we are somewhere in the middle compared to other reference countries. But also on top of that, we had challenges of war. Our results would have been much better if we didn't have to keep children online for another 2 years. And as it was rightly mentioned in the presentation by the Vice Prime Minister, we have a couple of years of academic losses. And to my mind, one of the most challenging aspects, as we have recently talked to the children coming back from a big competition in Tunisia, we are also noticing a huge challenge with psychosocial development of children, their ability to work as a team and present their results, etc., etc. We are also noticing high levels of anxiety in children. Therefore, coming back to offline, face-to-face education, I will repeat this time and again, this is an essential priority for the government, an essential element of national security. We have 900,000 students studying online. We have over 600,000 studying in Ukraine, 200,000 studying from abroad, and also a big number of those who are in mixed classes. Our intention is to make sure that as many children as possible can come back to their regular classrooms. Our intention is to reduce the numbers of children who are studying online only. We want this number to be twice lower, and we will also be speaking the shelters and the mechanisms for the distribution of subventions. These should be the logic that is quite understandable to all of you, and out of the projects that were launched this year, the last year, most were completed or are still in the process of implementation. So right now the communities are able to apply through the DREAM system, and we are working in the communities with low and moderate risks. You will hear from Andriy Stashkev about the rules of the subvention, and we are doing our best for it to be available as soon as possible. We are also implementing a number of solutions for the students who are learning online, especially for those who are learning from the locations that are different from their homes. And I mean those who reside in a place far away but is still a student of their local school. The quality of such education is quite often insufficient, and our intention is to connect the students with their nearest schools, because it's not only about academic outcomes, it's about psychosocial skills, it's about integration into the community they're in. It's important for their development, it's important for the host communities, and there is this fear that we are about to lose the schools and teachers in the communities that currently have lower numbers of children. Please believe me, once the conflict is over, once we are coming back to the liberated areas, there will be an active process of recovery. The whole world will be investing into those territories. The construction people, other types of specialists will be going there. And we are right now reviewing the network of schools that are primarily working online, and we need to be honest ourselves if we are working in the best interests of the child. And also we have to pick the right mode of education. We all know as practitioners that there are schools with shelters of insufficient size, and there we are introducing the studying in shifts, and this is a normal approach, and this is in line with the goals we are setting. And also there are cases of mixed formats. So there are children who are offline and children who are online, which complicates the task for the teacher, and both groups of the children are losing, and the teacher is getting additional workload. That's the practice we would like to avoid. Another big issue is transportation of children to safer locations where education could be happening in shifts. So these are basically face-to-face sessions for students, somewhat like camps that could have a duration of 1 or 2 weeks. It's very important for us to find locations such as the former recreation centers, recreation camps, vocational schools that can temporarily be reused during the war, maybe colleges or any other educational or recreational facilities that enable bringing children together, that provide dormitories and catering, and can ensure the education process, psychological support, and psychosocial development. So we currently have a project that has 5 schools on board, and there is a donor who is ready to provide $500,000 to each of them, and that's the project we are going to build on. There is one more project based on providing buses to schools. It's a difficult thing, but we are going to do this in the territories where it is impossible to bring all children back to school in their original location of residence. We should understand that 100% of children will not be able to go back to offline schools during the war, unfortunately, and this is why online education is something that is still in focus of our attention. We are reducing this option to the minimum level as far as possible, but we are continuing with this. We are providing gadgets to children, and I am grateful to UNICEF for their support. We have launched the International Coalition of Devices, and we are providing them to those who are unable to fully come back to offline education. We are also providing equipment for the teachers. I'm grateful to the civil society initiatives such as Silvet, the organization that is very active in the development of this network, and also CDLC. I visited the different regions, and I understand that this is a great solution that is suitable for this current time, bringing back the opportunity to communicate between the teachers and the children. We are continuing DLC development, and also recently, as I have visited New York, we signed a contract for $18 million, and some part of this money will be used for DLC. And again, if there are communities where you are seeing increasing numbers of children and you don't have any other solutions, please contact us, and we will be working with you to introduce this solution, because this is something that contributes to the optimism of children and educators. One more focus of attention is the continued support of the Ukrainian children abroad, because offline education is intended for every Ukrainian child, no matter where they are, in the safe or moderately safe territories in Ukraine or abroad. Last Friday, there was a meeting with the new ministers of Poland, the Minister of Education and the Minister of Higher Education. They are open for cooperation. We are noticing some positive changes at the ministerial level, and we will be doing our best to bring children back to offline education. We know that right now, in Poland, for instance, some share of the children are lost, so to speak. Legally, they are students of our schools, but actually they are not there, and they are also not studying offline in Poland. If we understand that the child is the greatest asset we have, we need to work to encourage them to study, and we also need to ensure their comeback at some point. Of course, if these children do not study at all, they are losing their life changes, and they are not growing as persons. So our policy is children need to study offline in the schools that are nearest to them in the countries where they are. Also, they need to study Ukrainian history, language, literature, and geography. And based on this outline, the Ministry of Education in Poland is ready to develop specific Ukrainian studies courses for the Ukrainian children. This is important for us to keep the Ukrainian community, supporting them with the Ukrainian educational content. And this way we are not losing the potential young Ukrainians that may choose to come back to our country. This is an important component of the reform of the new Ukrainian school. We have a great team of 2 members of parliament, the Deputy Minister of Digital Transformation. We also have there Tamila Tasheva, the President's representative in the Crimea. So this is our way to address the needs of the migrant children and also the other generations of migrants currently residing outside Ukraine. So the new Ukrainian school is going to be a tool based on which we will be looking for agents to back up this Ukrainian education around the world. So we are discussing the 3 possible formats of education, the offline education, the education offline in shifts, and also education online. And online schools can be in the database, providing educational services to children who are currently abroad. This is a great tool, and this is a great way to cover the needs of those children as well. There is a big segment of needs, the children who are currently in the occupied territories, and here there is a special need, the possibility of these children living for government-controlled territories. So right now we are doing this on a case-by-case basis. We are finding opportunities for these children in the Ukrainian boarding schools, but this is something that should be addressed on the level of government policy, making sure that we include these children into the Ukrainian national educational environment. I would like to finish here, and I am grateful to all of you for the fact that you are not waiting for the government to adopt a new policy. You are working proactively. You understand the situation in your regions and your communities quite well. You understand the pains and risks of the local communities, so please be active and please work to bring back children to offline education. That's the essential component of our success in the future. Our children need to have opportunities for growth despite the challenges we are facing right now. Thank you. Thank you so much, Minister. And if you permit, I will add a couple of words here. Speaking of the academic gaps and making up for these gaps, we are mainly focusing on the academic outcomes, but we should not forget about the psycho-emotional well-being of children. And so a DLC center that the minister was speaking about, this is a solution for adolescents to spend some time together, to watch a movie, to do basic things that are temporarily unavailable to them. In places like Izium, this is one of the few places where electricity is available. So If you want to establish something like this in your community, we can share a manual with you. And in fact, establishing such a place in your community may be simpler than it seems. And the first thing that families take into consideration when deciding to come back to their original places of residence, well, they are considering the opportunities for education of their children or some educational solutions if the school is temporarily unavailable. So right now, the proposals of communities are to be applied through the DREAM system, and we're going to hear from Mr. Alexander Kubrakov, the Minister of Recovery and Infrastructure. He's joining us online. Hello, Alexander, the floor is yours. Hello and welcome, everyone. First and foremost, congratulations on behalf of the Ministry of Education, Ministry of Recovery, and Ministry of Digitalization. Hundreds of communities all around Ukraine are awaiting for this to happen, and this is a very important precondition for bringing back life to community. This is also a necessary precondition for the parents to live and work in Ukraine and do their jobs and pay taxes. We as a ministry are implementing 3 projects of international technical support with a total amount of 50 million euro. So one of the projects is about recovery of schools in the regions. That's a UNDP project that is intended to repair 66 educational institutions. Another project is implemented by UNOPS. It was launched by the European Commission, and it intends to provide some renovation works in 75 schools, including the construction of shelters in schools which currently do not have shelters. And also there is a project financed by the government of Germany for 5 million euros, and also with support of the government of Lithuania, we are building shelters in 5 regions of Ukraine. The total budget is 15 million euros, and also quite recently there was a presentation of a new lyceum in Borodyanka, which will soon be available for the Ukrainian students. We are also having this new government financial program, which is going to be implemented through the DREAM platform. This will expedite the process. One will not have to wait for months for the money to be provided. This is a system that enables applying for funds easily, and this will be also a tool for decision-making about the projects. DREAM team is supporting the communities with their applications, so please use this opportunity as fast as possible. Quite soon, this financing is going to be open for international donors as well. The recovery is becoming transparent and effective. Thank you. One quick question, Alexander, if you permit. You are naming a number of recovery projects, but is there any place online where we could get all this information, or is it something that's going to be integrated into DREAM? Yes, DREAM is the primary source, but also depending on the donor and implementing partners such as UNOPS or UNDP, they are publishing this information on their respective websites. But DREAM is going to be the ultimate source of information. Thank you. As far as I understand, the press is already speaking to the ministers in the neighboring room. And right now, I would like to invite here Mr. Kudryavets, the first deputy minister, who is going to present in more detail the information that was briefly presented by the ministers. Thank you. Welcome, 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 everyone. We are right now delving into more detail on how it's all going to work. And right now, I would like to invite to this stage the colleagues. They are John Marks, the acting representative of UNICEF in Ukraine, Yulia Stefaniuk, Executive Director of the Buffett Foundation in Ukraine, Nate Mook, Special Advisor from the Buffett Foundation, Alexander Kachurin, the advisor of Minister of Education and the head of the Recovery Office under the Ministry of Education and Science, and also Yevgenia Smirnova, Deputy Minister of Education and Science. As we have mentioned already, and you could hear from the Vice Prime Minister and the Minister of Digitalization, the rules are changing, and well, it's the third year of the war already. We have to change our tasks and priorities, and we are going to change the approach to the recovery subventions or the shelter subvention. We are changing the approaches to the selection of regions and communities, and this is the topic of our discussion today. Very importantly, right now we have requirements for the design documentations. This was not a requirement before, and you all know that it takes time and effort to produce this documentation. This was a big burden for communities in the past. Overall, it took about 5 months for the community to develop such design documentation. And together with the partners, we have set ourselves the task to produce some model solutions that will expedite the process and create new opportunities for every community. This was done together by UNICEF and the Buffett Foundation. We have 9 projects for schools and 6 ones for kindergartens. These are designs that enable doing everything fast. Once you get the subvention, you will be getting your shelter ready before the start of the school year. This was the general intro, and I would like you to hear more from my colleagues here. And the first question goes to the acting representative of UNICEF in Ukraine. So I hope we can safely continue in Ukrainian as we are relying on simultaneous interpretation. We appreciate the support of donors and partners for the implementation of this project, because we all understand that the amounts that have been shared here by the minister is just a small share of what we need for the shelters in Ukraine. So we have to join efforts with the international partners, with the donor governments, to make sure that more of our children are able to study offline. So in the sectoral working group, on the international platforms, we have to speak with one voice. And UNICEF is one of our partners that helps us to communicate globally and to develop this policy for the communication with other partners. So my question to you, John, is the following. Do you see the importance of building shelters today? If yes, why is it of critical importance, and what do we have to do to bring more attention to this in the global community?
Yeah, it's working. Thank you very much. First of all, let me just say I have been in your country 4 weeks. I haven't yet learned your language. I'm sorry. I'm working on that, and I hope by the next time that I will be able to engage with you in Ukrainian. So if I understand the question, it's do we as UNICEF view building shelters as important? And if so, why? And what is the interest from international organizations in assisting Ukraine in this regard? Yes?
Yes, and how to elevate this interest?
How to?
How to elevate this interest, how to
Okay.
make it more powerful in the view of future.
Yeah. Okay, for UNICEF, first and foremost, it's unfortunate that we have to build shelters in the first place. In any normal environment, that wouldn't be required. But in this unfortunate case, it is required. We need to provide children with a safe, secure, child-friendly learning environment. And at the moment, we understand there are 1.2 million children in Ukraine outside of regular schooling. It's not just the hard skills that they lose, and the data shows that on the hard skills, they have lost 2 years reading and 1 year of mathematics. They're 1 year behind in mathematics where they should be if they had been in full-time school, 2 years behind in reading. But there's also, they're losing their soft skills, the interaction, the socialization with their peers in a school environment. It's important for us and for our donors, the international community, because children are the future of any country. The children of today are your teachers, your doctors, nurses, lawyers of the future. They are going to form your future government, etc. Your country, without the children of today growing up and having these skills to do that, you will not see the disastrous consequences today, but you will see them 15, 20 years from now, when these children should be entering the workforce and making Ukraine a strong, independent, self-sustaining country. So even if you look at it from the viewpoint of other countries that are providing funding for this, they view it as an investment into UNICEF for the future, that these children will be their future partners. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Я хочу перейти до наступного.
I would like to ask the next question, and this next question goes to Yulia. You are one of the two partners who joined this project to develop the reusable model designs, and this is the essential change in the process. We have identified the problem, we have found a solution to expedite this way from the desire to actual getting of the funds. We all understand that there is some need to do this, but From the standpoint of your experience, what is the most important element of this, and how can we use what's already available to get an even stronger result in the future? Thank you for your question. Hello. And our history of cooperation with this project has started with a phone call, and we already were taking part in a couple of projects around the food for children. We decided to provide some global aid, and we like this idea of model designs. This is a quick solution for planning of development of the new shelters at a proper quality level with limited resources, but making sure that everything meets the standards and also making sure that everything is transparent. So this is one more criterion which was important for us, and which was a reason for us to put in our resources into this. So what's necessary for us right now is your feedback to understand how many children are actually able to come back to offline schooling and how many shelters were commissioned through this approach. We need to look deeper and wider into this because we understand that these solutions enable supporting millions of children. In the end of the day, we are resuming education in some specific regions and town, but we are promoting global solutions, and we encourage all the partners to support solutions like this. It may seem that these designs are something that is on the paper, but in fact, it's about the children who are our future. Thank you. And by the way, this event is happening in a shelter, and as you could see on the signs, we were going down to the shelter. And I don't know if you have noticed, but to many of us, this is something that does not seem unusual anymore. It does not seem unusual for us to have an event in a shelter. It's becoming an inseparable part of our life when we are having an event and we want to know for sure that we are not going to be interrupted. We are having it in a shelter, and it's happening time and again. Last Saturday, a big number of educators were strategizing on the future of one of the educational institutions. This was happening in a school, but a school with a shelter, and we had to go down to the shelter 3 times. This time we are having an entire event in a shelter, and yes, it's becoming an inseparable part of our life. And here is my next question, which goes to Nate. We are hearing these questions from international partners. When have you started building the shelters? What can be your advice to others? Today we have heard about the meeting with the Minister of Education in Poland. Well, they have been in their position for 102 days, but they realize that they are lagging behind with shelter construction in Poland. So we will be hearing from Evgenia and Alexandra about these things. But here is my question to Nate. What do you see, what potential do you see for the use of Ukrainian experience in the global context? Can we multiply this experience of building shelters and working against the potential threats for children in other countries?
The question, and thank you for having me today. A couple of components to your question. I think overall, unfortunately, in some cases, the Ukrainian experience is going to be very beneficial for the entire world in a lot of contexts. We're already seeing this, of course, militarily, but Ukrainians' forced need to adapt to this situation is making the country very skilled in a number of things that, of course, will be useful as we look at the new geopolitical landscape of the world. Unfortunately, the reality is, even as we hope for victory and we hope this conflict to end soon, we know that Ukraine's neighbor is not going anywhere, which means that this is not a temporary need for Ukraine. And I think we need to really start thinking in that aspect, especially around education for the long term, that we need to even start to change our framing of what we're talking about. You know, I think when you talk to the international community and you talk to donors, you talk about shelters or you talk about basements. The idea of what those are is very specific. Right now, we are sitting in an underground car park. If you go to a hotel and you need to go into the shelter, it's often into the garage or the basement. If you go to schools today and go into their shelters, they're often basements, partially retrofitted into more hospitable environments. But they are sort of modified underground areas that are not very friendly initially. They don't seem designed for purpose, if that makes sense. And I think the problem is if we look at them in this regard, it will be very hard to get people excited about supporting the need for shelters. I think, you know, what we have now realized, and with our work with school districts, especially the school district in Kharkiv Oblast we're working with now, as we start to support different areas of the children experience, as Yulia mentioned, for example, with food, we can provide the best nutrition and the best food possible, but if the students cannot return to schools, then there's no point. So you need this full ecosystem, right? We heard from the minister about the buses, being able to bring the students to certain schools. The shelters are this integral component of the ecosystem of the school itself, not an additional sort of add-on. And so I think as we look at this, it's really about transforming the idea of what a school is. That this is not sort of an extra thing that we're just providing in a basement and painting the walls and making it look nice, but actually we really have to be thoughtful about how these shelters or underground learning environments are going to operate. And so for both cases, I think, yes, what Ukraine can innovate here and what it can do in terms of thinking this model can be applicable to other countries, especially in Eastern Europe, that are facing or will be facing potentially similar threats. And I think it's important to do it right, which is why it's so great to see what's being done now with the shelter designs and working very closely with the school districts. It's going to be a massive challenge. As we saw announced earlier, you know, the state subvention is approximately $62.5 million US. When we looked at one district alone, for example, Lozova district in Kharkiv Oblast, for the Lozova district, installing new shelters and upgrading existing shelters for about 43 shelters was around $42 million US. So that right there, 2/3 of the entire country's subvention would just cover the cost of one district in Kharkiv Oblast. So I think this really emphasizes the need for us to, of course, think about other sources of support, global international sources, and we're going to have to make very clear why this is important and why shelters are a key component of the educational landscape and not an add-on basement that we're painting some walls and putting some chairs in, but actually are a critical component to the school itself. And I think that hopefully making it a little bit more exciting for donors to get involved in, and also really being thoughtful about how the local municipalities are going to have to play a role, of course, in supporting this. they aren't going to be able to rely entirely on the state subvention. And so that type of planning and sort of figuring out what's possible is going to be very important, and leveraging these designs that Yulia has mentioned, and also looking at, in certain areas, all schools may not be able to come back online because it's just not feasible. So looking at and planning and mapping out, okay, if we can only bring back half of the schools and we have busing, how can we make this work? And so it's not going to be easy, but I do think, to your point, what Ukraine is doing now is going to be hopefully incredibly innovative and applicable to a lot of scenarios. Thank you.
Дякую дуже.
Thank you so much. Thank you for these ideas, and they indeed inspire us to think about our actions and our needs and prioritization of those. So this second part of our panel discussion is going to be devoted to some specific projects. So let us give the floor to Alexander Kachurin, advisor to the Ministry of Education and Science. You will see some results of this work that John, Nate, and Julia were speaking about. Thank you, dear colleagues. Yes, I am the person who made phone calls to all of you. I am the one with whom we were updating the data on shelters available. And today I'd like to make a presentation. Actually, there are two parts to it. A brief summary from the last year. You will see the challenges of the last year and also the plans for the current year. Let me get a clicker. So, let's come back to this idea of reusable designs. Let's begin with the subvention outcomes of 2023. So there was 1.5 billion hryvnias, 235 schools got the opportunities for the repairs or the construction or renovation. You can see the numbers of facilities in each of the respective regions, and you can see that in total 235 projects enabled bringing back to offline school over 143,000 children. So the main criterion we are always watching for is the percentage of use of the subvention. Last year it was the 75%. Also, there was co-financing from local budgets in the amount of 374 million hryvnias. So in total, the money available was 1.474 billion hryvnias. So two important indicators that we can watch now is the percentage of co-financing. As we can see, the local budgets were providing an average 34% of what the national government provided, and it costs 10.2 thousand Ukrainian hryvnias to bring back one Ukrainian student to offline education. Of course, this number will change over time, and both the inflation and the essence of our projects will have the impact of this number. Of course, it's much more expensive to build from scratch than just to renovate something that is there already. And also, speaking of some challenges of 2023, we can notice that the total amount of shelters that are still to be built, the number is over 5,000. And, well, I mean, this includes about a half of facilities which already have some basements that can be repurposed, but another half are the facilities which do not have anything there, which do not have anything at the distance closer than 400 meters. So this is the challenge number one. Challenge number two is the duration of these design works. We could see last year that this was a subvention used for the first time. Some changes were happening along the way in the middle of the year. We could see that quite a lot of time was required to develop the design documentation, and we understand that if everyone locally is spending local money, we would have to use in total over 3 billion hryvnias. I mean, if we were paying in full for all of this all of these designs for all of these facilities that require construction. And also along the way, we had some changes in the construction requirements. So if we kept this process as is, and 2,000 communities were developing the shelters for their needs, we would have 2,000 different types of shelters, which is surely something expensive and unnecessary. So we came up with this idea of reusable designs, that we now were in contact with UNICEF and our Buffett Foundation, and we could see. We can see here the numbers of these reusable design that are going to be developed for schools and for kindergartens. We started working with UNICEF some time ago, so we already have 8 projects that have already been assessed and are ready to be used. The designs for the kindergartens are going to be available since the current week. And also, since we have started this work with the Howard Buffett Foundation slightly later, there is some lag, but we are going to make up for that soon. And so there will be these projects available since mid-April. Again, you will be able to take the reusable design and implement it in your kindergarten. So we have the solutions for one-floor building, and also with the Howard Buffett Foundation, we also have the solutions for the 2-floor buildings. In this case, it's a smaller shelter, but it's a good solution if you are limited in terms of space. So you will now see a brief screenshots of these designs, and also you will see the expected price of such a shelter. You will see some additional parameters. Now, speaking of the numbers, you are going to see first and foremost the price. It's not the final price because every community that is going to adjust this design to your need, you will surely see that the conditions of your geological and geodetic location will have an impact, and also the price of construction materials in your specific region. Again, the number can be quite similar to what you see, but it's not necessarily the exact amount you see in the screen. So here is an example of what you are going to see, and according to the new construction requirements, there is a proposal to have a tunnel connecting the school with the shelter. So if a school or a kindergarten does not have the shelter yet, and we are going to build it nearby, it is advised to have such a tunnel connecting the place with the shelter. And also, using this opportunity, let us discuss some additional components such as ventilation, and also some visual design element. Actually, there is a brand book that you will hear about, and also there are some accessibility features which are required by the government standards and which are included into this design. And on top of the slide, you can see the type of facility, the number of students, and the number of floors. So this is a one-floor solution for kindergartens. First one was 100 students, 150 students, 200, 300 students. This is the school shelter. Again, a school shelter, 300 people, 500 people, one floor, 700 people. And kindergartens, one floor, two floor, and two-floor schools, shelters as well. So the largest one for the school is for 1,000 students. At the end of this presentation, let me point out that your actions will consist of 3 simple steps. If a community chooses to build a shelter in such a way, you will have to go to Moja Forteca website. You will have to pick the most suitable type of shelter. Then you will have to adjust the design to your local conditions, get the final report, and submit to the government for financing. Thank you, Alexandra. And in continuation of what you have just started, Evgenia Smirnova is going to present Moja Forteca, or My Fortress. This is a website with a number of opportunities. Thank you. And now I will kindly ask you to get your agenda page, find the QR code there, and this is a QR code that will take you to Moja Forteca website. That's where you will find all the necessary information, and we could also see this QR code on screen if possible. So you will find all the necessary information you will need for establishing a shelter. A shelter is not only a place for a temporary stay of children and adults. You will find there some advice on what to do in the shelter. You will find there all the requirements of subventions, the requirements for the audits, for the preparatory works to use some premises as shelter. So you will find all the necessary regulations. And also we will have there a section with news, and also there is a possibility to use Telegram chat. Once you are introduced to all of these documents, you may still have some questions, and please don't be shy and contact our specialists who can provide more explanations. All the information presented on this website is up to date. You will not have to search for construction requirements on some government websites. And this is something we have developed for the convenient use in the communities. So please use this website, use it for making solutions in your communities. I was waiting for this round of applause. And yeah, thank you, Eugenia. Thank you, dear colleagues. I see we are out of time a bit. Finally, let me briefly mention that all of us here today understand this main thing. These shelters are not about safety only. This is an integral part for ensuring one's right to education, because this is a necessary precondition for a school or kindergarten to work today. We could generate a number of projects and educational events, etc., but the availability of a shelter, that's the main precondition for a school to be able to fully launch its work offline. Thank you, dear colleagues, for us moving in this direction together, and hopefully once the school year starts, we will have another event where we will gladly announce that bigger numbers of children are studying offline. Dear friends, we will have a very brief 10 minutes break. It's not a coffee break, so no tea or coffee yet. We are expecting that in an hour, and please come back at 3:17.
Вам знадобиться тенісний м'ячик. Якщо такого не знайдеться, підійде будь-який інший. Гру розпочинає вчитель, який, тримаючи м'яч в руках, задає першу умову. Тепер це не м'яч, а гаряча картопля. Тут важливо, щоб вчитель сам повірив в запропоновані обставини і так повзаємодіяв з гарячою картоплею, як в реальному житті. Таким чином він спрямує і учнів повірити в це. Далі наставник передає м'ячик учню, який по-своєму має відіграти задану умову та передати його далі. Коли м'ячик обійде все коло, вчитель змінює умову. Тепер це пухнастий маленький кролик, який спить. З кожним наступним колом м'ячик виконує нову роль. Цю гру дуже зручно проводити сидячи, тому навіть невеликий простір дозволить учням повеселитися. При такій взаємодії діти завзято коментують свої відчуття, уважно спостерігають за однокласниками та активно виражають свої емоції. Головне, коли уява оживає, не сполохати її. Тому якщо гра проходить дуже активно, а у вчителя закінчились ідеї, він може залучити до креативу дітей. Вони з задоволенням придумають власні варіанти. Ця вправа допоможе дітям поринути у простір власної уяви та фантазії, розвинути їх та переключити увагу зі знаходження в бомбосховищі на цікавий творчий процес. Також цей комплекс знімає зажим тіла та переключає дитину на позитивний лад. Вітаю! Якщо лунає повітряна тривога, а ви перебуваєте в школі, важливо усім перейти в укриття. І щоб допомогти учням подолати хвилювання та страх, ми можемо виконати прості вправи. Ділюсь з вами вправою, яка добре спрацювала з дітьми віком від 7 до 10 років. Покажи емоцію. Ця активність має сильний терапевтичний ефект, адже дає можливість дітям відкрито, без осуду, прожити будь-які свої емоції, як негативні, так і позитивні. Вчитель пропонує дітям показати емоцію чи стан, який він буде називати. Першим завданням може бути показати лінь. Саме цю емоцію діти радо та завзято відтворять, навіть без прикладу наставника. І таким чином вони максимально проживуть усі свої небажання та непокори. Наступне завдання – показати зацікавленість, хитрість або замріяність. Вчитель має звернути увагу на кожного виконавця і відмітити його старання. Таким чином учень відчує важливість власних емоцій. Коли ви зрозумієте, що діти розкрилися та залюбки без страху показують задані емоції, варто перейти до сильних, негативних емоцій, таких як гнів та страх. Вони будуть найбільш бурхливими, голосними та активними. Не хвилюйтесь. Дайте дітям час, щоб їх прожити. Уважно слідкуйте за груповою динамікою. Коли побачите, що емоції виходять за рамки вашого контролю, сміливо міняйте їх на радість, щастя та любов. Ця вправа допоможе вчителю зрозуміти, які почуття переважають в групі та на які стани дітей батькам варто звернути увагу в подальшому. Самі ж виконавці вивільняться від негативних емоцій та звільнять більше місця для позитивних. Більше вправ дивіться у нашому пораднику для освітян. Там ви знайдете вправи для всіх вікових груп. Лінк на завантаження під цим відео. Вітаю, колеги! Продовжуємо серію вправ «Прості активності у бомбосховищі». Більше вправ для всіх вікових груп ви знайдете в нашому пораднику для освітян. Лінк на порадник та інші відеовправи внизу під цим відео. Вправа на розвиток пам'яті краще підійде для дітей старшої вікової групи, адже вона потребує більше зосередження. 7 учасників стають в певному порядку один за одним, а 8-й учасник запам'ятовує цей порядок і відвертається. 7 дітей змінюють порядок шеренги. Після цього 8-й учасник повертається назад і відновлює минулу конструкцію по пам'яті. Далі 8-м учасником може стати будь-хто бажаючий. Учасники сімки теж можуть змінюватись. В ході успішного виконання даної вправи можна додати ускладнення. Наприклад, до певного порядку можуть додаватися певні пози та емоції. Цю вправу можна проводити як сидячи, так і стоячи, в залежності від простору, в якому ви знаходитесь. Дана активність дуже подобається дітям та може займати довгий час. Вона не лише прокачує здібності пам'яті, але й розвиває самостійність та відповідальність. Адже діти самотужки відтворюють певний порядок виключно по пам'яті. В такому активному процесі діти також швидко відволікаються від тривоги. Більше вправ дивіться в нашому пораднику для освітян. Там ви знайдете вправи для всіх вікових груп. Лінк на завантаження під відео. Вітаю! Презентую наступну вправу з циклу «Прості активності у бомбосховищі». Вправа «Уявімо себе» полягає в тому, що кожен з учасників демонструє гру власної уяви за допомогою пластики свого тіла. Наставник пропонує дітям уявити себе певним предметом або істотою, перевтілитись та проіснувати в заданому образі деякий час. вчитель задає першу роль. Уявіть, що ви гарне зелене дерево, яке росте на прекрасній галявині, підставляє своє листячко сонечку, а легесенький вітерець гойдає ваше гіллячко. Такий детальний емоційний опис одразу привертає увагу дітей, тож кожен з учасників створить собою унікальне дерево. Коли діти проживають даний образ, вчитель змінює роль. Наприклад, тепер ви квіточка в пуп'янку, яка починає розкриватись, вперше відчуває на собі сонечко та вдихає на повну свіже повітря. До опису можна додавати інші події, які мають вплив на роль. Наприклад, раптом сонечко сховалося, набігли чорні хмарки та пішов дощ. Тут, залежно від фантазії кожного учасника, квіточка буде або радіти краплям дощу, або лякатись його. По тому, як діє фантазія кожного з учнів, вчитель побачить багато індивідуальних особливостей дітей. Наприклад, зрозуміє, хто як порається зі стресом, а також в кого переважає страх та недовіра до зовнішнього світу. Важливо, щоб в ході даного завдання вчитель під час виконання заданої ролі підійшов до кожного учня та прокоментував його образ, знайшов влучне та гарне слово, щоб похвалити кожного учасника. Ця гра спрямує енергію дітей в процес творчості, допоможе відволіктись від буденності та додасть фізичної активності. А позитивний досвід схвалення вчителем додасть дитині впевненості в собі. Більше вправ дивіться у нашому пораднику для освітян. Там ви знайдете прості вправи для всіх вікових груп. Лінк на порадник під цим відео. Доброго дня! Це продовження серії вправ для вчителів та наставників «Прості активності у бомбосховищі». Наступна вправа направлена на роботу зі спогадами та артистизмом. Кожен з учнів має згадати кумедну історію зі свого життя та розказати її класу в найдрібніших деталях. При цьому окрему увагу оповідач має приділити власним емоціям, думкам, діям та навіть виразам обличчя людей поряд в момент обраної ситуації. Задача учня – викликати у слухачів відгук та спровокувати щирий сміх. Під час розповіді учасник поринає у вир власної емоційної пам'яті та проживає приємні події свого життя, відволікаючись від перебування у бомбосховищі. Ви маєте бути готові, що історії дітей можуть бути не смішними. Але важливо уважно вислухати монолог дитини. Чому? По-перше, в ході розповіді дитина має сама розібратися, що зацікавлює. Доброго дня!
speak on the distribution of government subventions, that the issue of importance for many. The mechanism is new, so who is eligible? What are the selection criteria? And yeah, the questions are so numerous, and hopefully we will hear the answers from Andriy Stashkov, the Deputy Minister of Education. Hello, dear colleagues, and I hope that having had some rest for 10 minutes, we can delve into details. We can discuss the details of subvention distribution. Yes, I will be speaking of the selection criteria for those who want to apply for a part of this 2.5 billion hryvnias, and then you will hear of DREAM and how to use it. So 2.5 million announced today, that's the government subvention. The draft decree has been already developed and quite soon will be adopted. So who is eligible for the subvention? This is a subvention for educational institutions providing secondary and primary education, which includes schools, vocational schools, and professional pre-higher education with secondary school. Also, the minimum requirement in terms of the numbers of students is 200 students. We have to prioritize, we have to select the facilities with bigger number of students in the government-controlled areas, the facilities that require the construction of a new shelter, or also the capital repairs of the existing shelter, but in this case you will have to advance the existing standard of shelter you are having. But the funds are limited, so we will be focusing on the places where the change will be most visible in case of construction of a shelter. To get the subvention money, it is important to have the documentation. This is because the design documents, if they are available when you are submitting your application, we can assess the total cost of the project and also the possibility to complete this project within a year. Last year we already had the condition for co-financing. It was between 10 and 30%. This year the minimum level is 10%. Of course, we are glad to see the higher percentage of co-financing, and this way we will be able to finance bigger numbers of facilities. It is intended for the projects to be completed by the end of 2024, ideally by well, before the beginning of the school year, but we also understand that it will be something difficult to do. So we are first and foremost focusing on the communities that already have money, because this is our way to increase the total amount of communities that will get shelters. Basically, the co-financing is a way to save up to 20% of our money. And your step number one is to develop design documentation. one way to do that is to pick a reusable design. From моя фортеця, I looked through all those projects before my presentation. They are quite exciting. You can pick one and implement in practice. The next step is entering the data on your project in the DREAM system. It does not automatically mean that you are taking part in the selection, because here we are accumulating the total number of projects that are being implemented locally, but based on that, you are doing the next step. You are applying for the funds once they are available. So you can enter the data already, but once the competition is announced, there is one more additional step. You are submitting a project for participation in this competition. After that, the competition starts, and on this stage, nothing depends on the community. Everything is done automatically based on the priorities set out in the DREAM system, which meant that depending on the security level of your region, certain projects get prioritized, and the projects with the highest amounts of points will be financed. All the rest of the projects will stay in the DREAM system, and the money will be provided from the donors and the local budgets. The donors will have access to this DREAM system and be able to finance them. The government will pick a certain number of designs that were selected. There will be a certain list of the communities that will be financed, and we are departing from the mechanism that we were using last year, when it was the region that got the money first. This year we are not doing this, and the money makes its way directly to the community. Thus, we are able to save some time, and we expect the community to be ready to start implementing the projects from the start, and also those who are not getting approved for this financing scheme, you will be able to seek support from donors. The conditions are described on the website already. Again, if the types of your project is different from what we are looking for, you can look for donors. And also, since safety in part constitutes depends on the safe food, let me also mention the food subvention. Here are the models of school kitchens that are available and possible in schools. We will be providing financing depending on the size of the school. In certain schools, we are envisioning the bigger dining room, but this will not be full financing for the so-called factory schools. So the prerequisites for getting this financing is having sufficient numbers of students, and this has to do with the limited nature of financing. So we are focusing on the big schools first. There are some minimal requirements in terms of co-financing. Again, at least 10%. The more the better, the more points your project gets. If you are establishing the factory uh, uh, dining room, you have to consider some more important elements here. And by the way, the previous subventions and the criteria of them entailed the situation when the school quite often was replacing the equipment entirely rather than being able to get some of the useful equipment and keep some instead. So this way we are making a step this year to make sure that the use of the money is more effective, and of course one of the necessary preconditions for that is having sufficient numbers of offline students. Thank you, Andy. And as far as I can remember, one of the criteria is the development of the design. So, should we need to develop it in any case? Yes, you will have to develop it anyway, and the better the level of readiness, the better the chances for the positive outcome. So, the designs for which you already have contracts, you will have better chances with them. And yeah, thank you very much for this. Finally, let us have one more presentation here. Whatever the projects you are applying with, you are applying through the DREAM system. You could have heard about it, but maybe not yet had a chance to see how it works. So let us now have the presentation of this DREAM platform. Let us give the floor to Alexandra Zarhina, Deputy Minister of Community Development, Development of Territories and Infrastructure. Is Alexandra here with us? Yes, she is here. She is coming. So while we are waiting for Alexandra, let me briefly add that quite naturally you may have many questions right now. We do not have enough time for Q&A today, but you will have a number of workshop and training events to get all the answers you need, and you will learn the schedule in the end of this event. Thank you so much. I am nervous, and I'm so glad about this step we are making, because the Ministry of Education is becoming the champion of the DREAM system, although it all started from our ministry originally, and I'm grateful for this step that is happening right now. So that's the system that was envisioned in spring 2022 by the government, communities, and the international donors. We were watching the first territories being liberated, and we understood that we needed to find some digital solution for recovery. On the one hand, to prevent corruption, but also that was our step to properly regulate this process, because we are super decentralized. In all this process, we have an endless number of partners who are ready to support us. This may include private investors or foundations like the Howard Buffett one. There can be bilateral cooperations between cities, regions, or the governments. The recipients can be of different nature. We have a variety of options, and this is great. No one is trying to force anything on anyone. We are not trying to impose any preconceived hierarchy, but what we are trying to do is to create a digital system in which everyone's going to be able to exchange information, and this will address the basic needs. The need to avoid duplication of projects in one and the same facility. There was a case when 6 different donors were intending to support one and the same kindergarten. Well, it all ended well, but it's a normal situation that a community looks for many sponsors. And this is a tool that helps us prioritize. When you have the same app that lets you be informed about all the distractions and about all the sectors, etc., you are better equipped to make the decisions. Our first customer last year was the fund for liquidation of consequences of Russia's aggression, and the first money available to the fund came from the arrested assets of the Russian Federation here in Ukraine. Hopefully, our partners will take care of providing more of those soon, because the confiscated assets are more numerous. And the initiative for the projects comes from the communities. We have introduced this idea of submitting one's project into the DREAM system for everyone who wants to implement anything. We are relying on the methodology of the World Bank. And so the level where the Ministry of Education working now is way ahead of what we initially had. You are working with the entire project in the digital form. This is a way to properly select a project in the system where everyone is able to see everything, but it's also about making these decisions on the funds in such a way that we are doing this in a smart format with sufficient integrity. Of course, when thinking about the priority areas for funding in the field of education, we were thinking with other ministers on how to present these priorities of Ukraine on the multi-donor platform, because as a role, the question is one and the same. You have huge needs, Ukraine, but what are your priorities right now? What needs to be addressed right now? And we, as sectoral ministries, have to provide some framework within which the processes need to take place in terms of education, which is the framework to ensure education. So, yeah, in the nearest future, we cannot have offline education without shelters. This is why shelters are important. But how can the system be useful to you right now? You can see the main page on the slide right now. To make your experience more engaging, you may enter this website. Again, the mobile version may be imperfect because it is mainly developed for desktops. But anyway, you can see thousands of projects, 3,000 of projects uploaded by the communities. 600 communities are already using the system for their purposes. We have used the system with the World Bank. We are right now using it with the Ministry of Education, but it is great when the communities are submitting their project here, even if it is not associated with some specific source of financing. So many communities understood that this is their opportunity to have their portfolio in a clear digital format. This is a sign of quality. You are showing as a community that you are not afraid of being transparent. You are not afraid of being able to report not only to the Ministry of Finance, but to everyone who is willing to see this. And when we are presenting this system to our partners, they do not even believe this in the beginning. And once we open the laptop and show this working, they are really impressed. Germany, US, UK, they are totally excited to see this, and they wish they had such a system, because this is a system with the different infrastructure investment projects. It's a broad framework to back our development, and the international partners understand that this level of transparency that is here in Ukraine is something that even they lack. And this is our answer to the numerous questions about corruption and integrity. We can pick any project here, and we can go step by step. The public hearings, design, reports, application, financing, and completion. We are always thinking about the future once this project, once this platform becomes mandatory, and if I'm having a walk in Bucha near my parents' place, I will be able to check the identifier of the nearest construction site. I will be able to enter it on the website and see the scope of project and see what has been financed already, and compare this to the actual status of work. So on this platform, you can see all of the information that is being uploaded automatically from Prozoro, from the treasury payments. So we are also working with the cultural heritage register. We also want this to be synchronized, because this way we are not going to finance the projects that will damage cultural heritage. So we have right now 9 different digital systems with which we are being synchronized. In the center you can see DIA, our most important government connectivity tool. I keep sharing this story, how I was able to register my child online within 5 minutes. And yeah, it is great that we have such things in our country, and they keep telling that if it wasn't our team that came up with Dream, someone else would come up with this. So in the communities, you have a very good understanding of e-recovery. Yeah, on top of the iceberg, you have the person who gets the money to their bank account, but there is a hidden element, a big hidden element of many people who work to register the damages incurred. And also we are also working hard to synchronize with the sectoral ministries investments so that we can assess the impact of the specific investments. So we are entering the data on the shelters and associated government investments, and we are checking if this somehow impacts the outcomes. And quite fortunately, in the modern conditions of the digital state, we are able to analyze this and see how effectively the money is spent. We work with Prozoro, with spending.gov.ua, with the United Government Register. Our basic rule is that once the community enters the information, the government does not need to request this information once again. This is there to simplify your life. And as I have discussed before, for a community, DREAM is the opportunity to build this work again. So this is a huge reform, and it has called about $1 billion of microfinancial support. This is the answer to how we are going to spend our money, and this is one of the elements of our answer of how we are going to spend this money and contribute to the development of the communities. And this huge reform, we are working to ensure high quality information, and we are also working to represent the subnational level. So it is up to the Ministry of Finance to address how the different regions have to renovate their facilities, but this also needs to be coordinated with the plans of communities themselves. The government has developed the strategy for recovery until 2027. It has been through the committee already, but we are awaiting the final approval. This is required because of Euro integration processes, and the community will be asked to update their plans. We are working to make sure that there is a clear connection between these simple facts: having your project in a dream and getting the money. If you want to get some government financing, you also need to be able to back your project up with your development plans. Of course, it's not something applicable to things we cannot predict, but if this is something about planned recovery, this is a way to go, and this is our only way to start using the European structural funds. Unless we learn to make these connections and to report on how a specific investments makes an impact, it becomes very difficult for us to compete for these funds. And actually, we have a lot to learn from the government of Poland that became expert in getting money from the European Structure and Fund. I truly want to sell the system to you because I want you to be able to use this system to the best you can. And one of the necessary preconditions is for you to see the benefits. Quite often I hear from our partners, okay, maybe in the field they will not be able to use the system because it takes some training, etc., etc. But then I travel to some remote place and I see people gladly using it because of the high levels of digital literacy in our people. I know that we will cope with this. We are also working quite closely with the Ministry of Health and the Subvention on the reform of school food, school catering. This is also something that's going to be available through the Dream system, and we are working to create the necessary capacity. And also, a very important change here is prioritizing planning and trust. We need to build on the sectoral priorities, and it's very important for this methodology to be developed together with the community. There is never such a thing as an ideal methodology, but we need to make sure that these are unified rules, they are transparent, and they do not change since the moment you see them first. So all of these things are integrated with sectoral and regional development plans. While investing into Dream system, you are basically investing into the development of your communities. Dream is a foundation for the implementation of a financial program. In Dream, you are able to develop your recovery project in the machine-readable format. There are those little tweaks in the system which you are probably not seeing since the very beginning, but they will be helpful in the long run. We are, in essence, training you to work with international financial institutions. All of this is based not only in the regulations of Ukraine, but also in the best practices of the international financial institutions. We have a lot of work being implemented together. We are working with open contracting partnership. These are very experienced people. So by filling out this information in Dream, you are not only making something beautiful, but you are also making something readable for the EBRD or the World Bank or the new bank that will be launched for the issues of housing. You are creating a structured format project that will be transparent and available for the support at every stage. In case you have used Dream before, in case you have worked with our team, you all know how high is the quality of our customer support. We are right now building the Dream Academy. I am looking forward to the time when we have even higher numbers of the communities to participate. Well, I hope that the sponsors will stay with us till then. But right now, the conditions are perfect. I have personally tested the chatbot. If you have a question, you can ask it and get the reply on the chatbot. If your question is more complex, you will get a phone call. And based on this feedback, you will be able to get a better system with every coming day. So there is some competitive advantage to those who get registered in this system. If you are not registered yet, please make sure you are. The basic requirement is that it's the local self-government that has to appoint a person to be able to enter the projects in the system. So there is a digital trace behind every data entered. And, well, basically it's quite a simple process, almost like creating a profile on Facebook. And of course, you have to clearly specify some required data about the numbers of residents, students, etc. But this is also the start of your public presentation, and then you have to apply for the funds. And well, I truly envy my colleagues, because in the liquidation fund we did not have this advantage, but when you have this fully developed digital system, you will have a much lower chance for any failure. So step 4 is the consideration of applications and selecting projects for financing. So there are some video instructions. You can watch them later, and it's quite an easy thing to do. Get registered. There are video instructions on how to develop a project, how to apply for participation in the financial program, and you can take a photo of the slide. You will then have all these QR codes available to you at any time. So that's the schedule of training, the instructions for the users, and the possibility to talk to this wonderful team. The Center for User Competence is to be established soon. We currently have over 10 local self-governments testing the system. The system is not only for that, but they are the main customer, and of course the regional administrations, the Ministry of Culture, Justice, the Recovery Agency, the Ukrainian Railway, the numerous donors that are also entering information on DREAM here. Again, not all the partners are ready for this level of transparency, but we are gradually changing this culture. We can see the differences of numbers in different regions. Lviv, for instance, is one of the regions that invests its time to enter all the projects in this system. You can also take the photo of this slide as well. Basically here we are boasting how effective we are. It takes up to 20 minutes to get the answer. It can take a maximum of 7 days if you need to update functionality. We have never had any problems before. We will see new waves of participants. We understand that the number of messages is quite high, which shows how active we are. Finally, let me finish with the mention of the partners. I have mentioned already the Open Contracting Partnership. That's a team of about 30 people, and surely the ministry would have hard time working without such a ministry. Also, the Recovery Agency, which is responsible for major flagship programs, and also we have Transparency International and open contracting. So once we developed our methodology, we had to do a lot manually. It was difficult, and we had to publish Excel files, but still that was a foundation for us to prove that we are following some independent methodology. Quite often it was available thanks to the support of Transparency International. Right now, all of this is digital and easy to check. We are very grateful to our partners for the support they are providing. I want our network to keep growing, and I'm sure it will come true. Thank you. Alexandra, you have been successful in persuading at least one person, who is me. One brief question here. You had a list of international partners such as UNICEF, UNDP, etc. Does the system imply open data access to other partners? I mean, others who are not the government? Are they able to see the projects of others? Yes. DREAM is basically the bank of projects. This is something that is available to those who want to pick a project, because there will be announcements. A community is looking for financing here, and everyone will be able to see this. Right now, the system is fully public. So, for instance, the registry of damaged property, that's closed information because there is lots of personified closed data there. And here, it's important for us to have everything the most open and transparent way as possible. And one more important thing is opportunities for business. That's a separate window in the system, and it's very important that the communities are able to see the system to the extent possible. And by the way, we are joining the Berlin conference, and let me warn the communities who have not filled out their data, you will not be able to go to Berlin. Thank you for this update, and let me emphasize again, even if your project is not financed right now, you will have a chance of someone financing it in the future. Thank you so much. New things may look frightening in the beginning. Let me remind you once again that DREAM is the system that will support all of us and simplify our lives. If you have any questions left, well, let us see our schedule of training. You can make a photo here. There will be two types of meetings. There are information meetings in the regions. You can see the schedule, so please leave your contacts and you will get a message, an invitation, and you will be able to ask the specific questions you are concerned about. You will be shown how to get registered. Your life will be very, very simple. One more type of events is different. These are practical workshops. Almost all of them are provided online, except for some specific places. So, yeah, this information is going to be available soon. You will receive it from the ministry. Thank you everyone for being with us today. Thank you UNICEF for supporting us. Thank you for all kinds of support you are providing, and thank you every one of you for being here today and doing amazing things in your communities. Thank you for being so devoted to the needs of our children. We have exhausted our program today, but we will now have room for informal communication. You can stay here for maybe half an hour and ask your questions in case you still have some. Thank you everyone, and I wish you a great rest of the day.